We're live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a very special edition of MovieCast close to the MCU. Now, I am joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you, Mr. Jr. of Bailey?
Doing excellent, Dana, and yes, hope everyone else is doing well also.
Wonderful. And I am also joined by the very British, always UK-ish, Gary Swaby. How are you doing, Idris Elba?
Wow, that was a great introduction. Like, thank you.
Always, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. It's a rarity, but it's pleasurable. So thank you.
I'm happy to be here.
So we are going to talk about the huge news about Mommy and Daddy is finally coming back together again, and we are family. And that is the Spider-Man will stay in the MCU, maybe temporarily, maybe long term. We don't know, but according to the whole divorce procedures, it just didn't work out. They realized that they had love in their hearts for each other after all, and Mommy and Daddy are not getting a divorce right now. It's a trial period. So, right now we get to stay in the home as a unit, and it's working out, and it's going to be good. As everyone knows, they had a huge split during the summer. Everyone was angry. They were protesting. You know, there was the hashtag Spider-Man belongs in the MCU. Everyone was angry at Sony. People were confused. But it seems that during the late hours of last week, Marvel and Sony was getting together, and they decided to have a deal, and that they have decided that they will continue the shared custody of Spider-Man for right now, at least for one movie. So we're getting a 3. We're getting a Spider-Man 3, and that Spider-Man will appear continue in other MCU movies. He will make his appearance. You can say his name. You can mention Tony Stark. You can mention Tony Stark in the whole Spider-Man Sony projects that's going on, and he will make a cameo, whether physically or just name-wise. We don't fully know yet, but he will be making a cameo in Venom. They've been trying to do this for the longest. He will be in Venom. There's a possibility now he's going to be in Morbius. And there is also another possibility that they just announced Madam Web that Sony is doing. It is going to be pretty awesome. And that it just might, maybe because it deals with the multiverse, but it might be Doctor Strange in the madness of the multiverse. So let's break this all down. So as I was saying, the two companies, they have announced jointly with Kevin Feige. Because remember, Sony ran over. They threw Kevin Feige under the bus, saying he's too busy. We're being the nice ones, and we're giving him time off. We got this. We can create these great movies. We always knew how to create great movies, and we can do this without Marvel. And we know we all collectively laughed. But now it seems like they're not necessarily eating their words, but they're pretending that those words never existed. So they're very happy that Kevin Feige is coming back on the series. Once again, Tom Holly will be there, and that everything will be financed. Because before we had a problem with the financing, Marvel was, basically not getting any of the royalties, and they were doing all these movies, and they wanted to get all of the money that these films was making, because remember, it grossed over $1 billion for the last Spider-Man movie. So the deal that they have reached is this. The financing will be 50-50. Kevin Feige will remain as the consulting producer, and that Marvel will receive 5% of the first dollar gross and all of the merchandising revenue. I failed math, so I don't know what that means, but they're getting paid.
Well, say that again. Say that again. Disney gets 25%.
No. So what happens is that Sony, here's the whole deal. that Marvel will receive 5% of the first dollar gross and all merchandising revenues. So they get all of the merchandising, and they get the 5% of the first dollar gross. I don't know what
Oh,
that means.
oh, my bad. Because I read somewhere they were getting 25%, but I think that's
Right.
that's off the box office though. Like when the movie comes out.
When it comes
Cause
out, Marvel and Disney, they will receive roughly 25% of the profits.
oh, okay, so you're talking merchandising and stuff like that. They're
Right.
getting like 5%.
Right.
Oh,
And
okay.
so Disney will retain its merchandising rights and will put up roughly a quarter of the financing.
Oh.
Spider-Man will also appear in future Marvel films. In one future Marvel film. So Spider-Man, the continuation of being home, we don't know yet, um, will, will release, they have a release date, July 16th, 2021. So this may mean that other movies might get pushed back because of this whole deal. So they might end up delaying Thor. They could end up delaying Thor. We don't know yet. But also, it everyone's extremely excited. Amy Pascal, she will be back with the producing, and that she again, everybody's excited for that. And this seems to be pretty good. This seems to be really exciting. They finally reached a deal, and I know that people are very excited about this. This means that we can finally have an end cap because the last movie ended on such a cliffhanger regarding Spider-Man and his identity, and now him being the villain or perceived to be the villain. So this could work out. What are your ideas, Mr. Bailey Jr.?
Well, I agree 100% with what you just said. I'm glad that they came to this resolution because the way that the last movie ended, it was just very bizarre for them not to finish that story. So I'm glad that they're going to finish it. I will say, as far as the future movies, if there's any other movies, let's hope that Disney and Sony are able to play nice, because I do not want a situation similar to what happened with Joe Proctor and his ex. We do not want to see one of them getting drugged and then they just leave the other one to die. Although I think Sony definitely still wants to do their own thing, so we'll have to wait and see what happens after this movie. But I'm just glad they're going to finish the story because, like I said, a lot of people was very caught off guard. And obviously, we all know that the reason why they were hesitant to work with each other again is because of the money and because of how much money that they were asking for. So I really don't know what Kevin Feige has planned, but I would like to hope that yes, conclude this story, and then if you decide to use Spider-Man in any other franchises, that'll be great. But we'll see what Sony allows him to do and what they ultimately decide to do.
What about you, Mr. British man?
Yeah, man. Tom Holland, he's my friend. You know,
He's a
we're
friend.
from the same street. But yeah, I think this is good. I mean, ideally, I would want Spider-Man to be in the MCU long term, but of course, when you have two big corporations, you know, they're just not gonna play nice with each other because that's what happens in with with capitalism and everything. So yeah, of course, you know, they ran into problems with this whole deal and the splits and everything. So I'm just happy that we can get, you know, one final Spider-Man MCU movie just to finish it off because I really wanted to see where, you know, MCU, where Marvel was going to go with the story, you know, based on that ending that we saw in Far From Home. So yeah, I'm glad that we're actually going to get to see what they were intending. However, I was kind of interested in some of the ideas I heard they had because there was, I don't know how much truth there is to these rumors, but I did hear that because Captain Marvel isn't so likable, they were planning to team her up with Spider-Man in a couple movies to
Gosh.
to make her more likable and stuff, basically.
Uh,
But yeah, that's the thing. I'm guessing now, we're not really gonna get to see Spider-Man in some of the other MCU properties, and that kind of sucks, because it was cool having Spider-Man, be in Civil War and Infinity War and Endgame and
Oh,
these other Marvel movies, like aside from his own. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that we're getting that one last one, I guess. And I guess Sony has their own plan for him in the long term. But yeah, I'm just happy we're getting this, to be honest. What was you gonna say, Rich?
I just want to say that I do think until Sony and Disney confirm some of these other things, yeah, I would not rule out the possibility of him showing up in other franchises, because I thought that there was a statement that was also said they have a plan to. There was a tease that he could show up anywhere, and what we do know about the last Spider-Man movie is that it went into the whole multiverse thing. So very easily, Spider-Man could end up in an alternate universe, and he could end up, I don't know, with the X-Men or Fantastic Four. So I don't want to completely rule that out, because it kind of feels like they did tease that for a reason. And Kevin Feige has said that they did have other plans for Spider-Man besides just the movie itself. But again, I'm not 100% sure, because I saw a couple of different reports about whether or not it's just the one movie, and I'm not really sure if there is more beyond that one movie. So I guess we have to wait to see officially whatever they have planned, or if there's more news released before we get to that next movie.
that is true. Well, for me, I know I'm just very happy to see that Happy and Aunt May can go back to being a couple again. They were so cute. It was odd. I mean, Tony Stark's dead, so why not
Yeah.
take advantage of that? That's really appreciative. So I'm happy to see that. And I know that Tom Holland, he had a reaction when he put up the Wolf of Wall Street clip of him saying, "I'm not leaving."
Yeah, that was awesome. Yes.
And Zendaya replied, and she had the gif of Spider-Man dancing.
Yeah.
So everyone's pretty much excited about that. But I just think, you know what it is? I hope that this is long term, but I think this was something that, they did this for the fans, because I felt that if they would have continued without there being a part 3, and they had their own Spider-Man, we're doing it our own selves, our own way, that they would not have generated that much money at the box office just out of sheer protest.
Yeah.
So monetarily, it really made more sense to just, even if it's one film, to finish this whole trilogy up
Yeah,
and then
that's
go
true.
on. Because if you look at it now, Sony is making their own multiverse,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Madame Web, because she's just essentially, not necessarily like a Doctor Strange version, but she has that whole quality. I know she was created in 1980s, um, and that she is a mysterious a mutant that is gifted with all of these different gifts, and that it left her blind, paralyzed, and she's connected to a life support system. That kind of reminds me of the whole thing with Doctor Strange when he was half dead and he went to go meet the Ancient One, and explaining that whole universe. So I just feel that they're trying to, in some way, create their own multiverse version, and that way they can have the Morbius and the other characters. I know they're doing Sinister Six, and they're working on other villains as well, so that they can introduce that to their, I guess, Sony multi-universe? SMC? SUC? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
So,
sense.
yeah. So this is a good thing. Was you going to say something, Mr. Bailey? I'm not Bailey. Gary?
Nah, you kind of answered, where I was going.
I I actually would like to make a. I do have something to say real quick, and this is an honest question for both you, Miss Abercrombie, and Gary. Do you think that they were planning to do this deal all along? Because it kind of feels to me like, and I spoke about this last night with my other friend. It kind of feels like, when that news got out publicly about, oh, there was not the deal, that it kind of feels like that got out to in order to build outrage, so that then when they did announce that they did work something out, then people would be even more excited. Because you think about it, when a couple of months ago they actually re-released an extended version of Spider-Man in the theaters once again to, I guess, see if they could make some more money. And then it just so happens that the very same week that this announcement was made, that I believe that the movie actually came out on DVD and Blu-ray. So this is why I'm thinking they definitely was intending to get back together again. But I guess some of that stuff with that whole argument back and forth, that wasn't supposed to get out in the public. But I just wanted to get y'all opinion on that.
Yeah, I have a theory. Oh, sorry. Do you want to go first, Dana?
Oh, no, go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have a theory. But first of all, let me just say this, like, because I feel like they were gonna work this out anyway, because there's just so much money on the table. But with them working together, of course, they might be concerned about the splits and the division of the profits that they're getting. But I think together they're still gonna make way more money than they would, without doing a joint Spider-Man movie. So it makes sense business wise. But my theory is this, right? Because that news first came out on the week leading into the D23 event.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think Disney wanted to announce, when the next Spider-Man thing was going to happen, and maybe announce some films that was going to feature Spider-Man. But I'm guessing Sony, they were being really fussy about the deal, and I feel like Disney might have been the ones to leak the news to put pressure on Sony to, because I remember a report around that time saying that Disney wants the deal to be finalized before D23. So I feel like, maybe someone at Disney leaked that news so that the public would put pressure on Sony, and they would feel like they have to make a deal and finalize, the terms that Disney wants and stuff. So I feel like maybe that might have been what happened. But I think they was always going to come to some sort of settlement with each other, so that there could be, at least another Spider-Man movie. Because it just makes too much sense. It makes more sense for them to do this than for Sony to then just, have the third movie be in a completely isolated universe that's not MCU, and just carry on like this was how it was all along. Like, that would make no sense. So yeah.
Well, if it was leaked, the only people who had proper leverage would have been Disney. So it wouldn't have made any sense for Sony to leak it, because everyone automatically would end up hating Sony.
Exactly. That's my point. That's why I think
Yeah.
Disney are the ones, that leaked it. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I felt that, in a matter of time, all it took was time, we would have a deal. I didn't think it would go that quickly, but it just took a matter of time, and that it was a lot of pressure involved, and it wasn't by anyone else aside from the fans, and they just didn't want to continue to keep looking horrible, even though at the end of the day, if you looked at it, Sony just wanted to be paid properly. So I do feel that I don't know how long it's going to last. I do feel that Sony may be continuing to fill itself a little bit more, and like I said before, they're creating their own multiverse. So they may think that they can be the next MCU. I just hope that they know how to just do a film decently. That's all I want. I just do that first. Let's see how Morbius looks like. Um, let's see how the other movies look like. We were supposed to get a Sinister Six, and that failed. And these are movies that they promised us before they had this deal with Marvel. I mean, remember the whole thing with what's the boy nobody pays attention to who was Spider-Man?
Oh,
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
yeah.
He had a whole thing. Nobody really paid that much attention to it.
Yeah.
And that one left with a cliffhanger too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
A lot
yeah,
of people I talked to didn't like those movies. So,
it's all sad.
yeah. But I also think that, on Sony's side of things, I think, they saw how big these movies were in the MCU. And I feel like they wanted to kind of shove Venom in there as well to get to get him popular. So I think they wanted the power of the MCU to help with some of their other characters as well, so that they could continue to make movies off of those people. Because think about it, if they're able to, put some of these lesser known, because we're nerds, so we know these characters, but there are a lot of people in the world who watch these Spider-Man movies. They might not be as familiar with all these different characters, right? So I think Sony wanted to kind of shove some of these characters in, the Spider-Man MCU films to make them more well known, so that they could then go back and make their own movies without MCU and have them sell very well. So I think that was kind of part of their strategy, because I remember hearing that they wanted Venom to be in the MCU as well, kind of thing. So I think their main plan is with this deal, they just want Spider-Man to blow up, and they want more eyeballs on the character, so that when he does go back to his own secluded universe in Sony, everyone is going to know who these characters are, and they're going to be more invested in them just because of the hype of the MCU films. So I think that's Sony's long-term thinking here. Eventually, they want to go back and do their own thing. Do you think that as
Well,
well?
well. I just will make a quick comment and say, I will give Sony credit because Into the Spider Verse was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And they obviously are already working on a sequel to that. So that definitely made, I believe, over $1 billion. So I can understand them wanting to step away from Disney, but with this particular incident in this particular movie and the fact that the story was incomplete, they definitely had to finish this. You had to work out some kind of deal and get this thing done, because it just it's a bad look if they don't finish the story. So yeah, um, we'll certainly see what the future holds. But I do agree that I mean it still feels to me like this is going to be a part-time deal type of situation. But again, I guess we'll have to wait and see. And if it's a situation of they want money, well, I think Disney is in a perfect position to give them more money. But the question that I ask myself is, have they even tried to say, well, let's try and buy out the Spider-Man rights altogether? And I'm pretty sure Sony would say, no, we're not going to do that. So, I mean, unless they charge them a ridiculous amount of money for one character, and then Sony, then maybe. But I still don't think Sony would even give up the rights to Spider-Man, even if they got a good offer from Disney. But we'll see.
Yeah. There was actually there was, like, I saw a headline somewhere that apparently there was a breakdown of the reason why Disney won't buy back Spider-Man from Sony. I don't know the full details, so I can't relay that because I don't want to do a bad job of relaying that information. But
Uh-oh.
I don't think it's as easy as everyone thinks for Disney to just buy back that property. I think there are some really, really strict terms there that prevent it from happening the same way it did with Fox. So
Mhm.
I think that deal is just set up in a completely unique way than it was with with X-Men and all those other things. So yeah, it's kind of I know for the hardcore Marvel fans who want to see all the characters together, it kind of sucks that we might not get a future with Spider-Man in the MCU, especially like because my like what I want is I really want like there to be a movie where we see X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and the other Avengers in a film together. Like that would be mind blowing to see on the screen, And of course, we got something close to that in Infinity War and Endgame, but like to see all of those characters, like that would be insane. But it seems like that is never gonna happen, unfortunately. So, and yeah, who knows what those terms are? But yeah, I just don't think I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. But just the fact that we got to see Spider-Man in the MCU is a big enough deal, and we should be satisfied with that, as fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dana's not here, right? Let me see.
Dana's here. I believe she's just very excited over. Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, she's very excited. She's geeking out. But but what would you actually think is gonna like happen in the next Spider-Man movie? Like what villain would you want to see, in that movie?
Well, the thing about this is that obviously they have to address the aftermath of the last movie and the fact that Spider-Man is seen as the villain. So I would think that, in my opinion, because he is the villain or seen as the villain, I do think that they're going to want to bring in a villain that pretty much is going to make it their job to take out Spider-Man, and I'm thinking maybe that's going to be Kraven the Hunter, since
Mm,
he can definitely go after Spider-Man, and I mean they had a couple of those stories already in the comics. So my guess is they could go that route, but also, I mean, it ultimately depends on what happens with these other movies, because the Venom movie, there's a Venom sequel, and this Morbius movie, and either one of those characters or even both of those characters could easily pop up in that next Spider-Man movie, and that will make for another interesting villain. But I do think they definitely have to address the fact that, well, now he is seen as a threat to humanity and all this other stuff. So he has to clear his name. I think that's definitely going to be one major element of the next story. But aside from that, yeah, I'll be very curious to see which villain they do decide to go with. But yeah, we have to wait and see about that.
yeah,
How
another.
about you?
Oh, Craven would be great, like, cause I'm thinking of Spider-Man villains that we haven't seen on screen before, and Craven definitely fits the bill. So that would be great to see. I also wanted to see Kingpin on screen. I feel
Mm.
like that would be great, and that's a character you can use in other MCU properties as well.
Oh yeah.
So it would be great to kind of establish him. But uh, the other thing I was gonna ask is like, so this could potentially be the final Spider-Man MCU film. So do you feel like we may get some other MCU cameos in this film, or do you think Disney might go with the mindset that since this is the last Spider-Man MCU film, then they're gonna hold back on all the cameos and the characters that they can use in their other movies?
Actually, I 100%. If I had to make a guess, I will 100% say they definitely are going to have some cameos of other characters in this movie. Only because yes, it is. It is going to be Spider-Man's. It may very well be Spider-Man's final MCU movie, but Marvel is still planning to make movies after this, and because it is the last Spider-Man movie, they could use that as an opportunity to introduce other characters that they can then put in some of their other movies moving down that that further down the road. So I think that they definitely would consider this, and I also would say if they do that and let's say they make it very very prominently that these characters are featured to a larger extent in the movie, then I 100% will use that as a sign to say, okay, maybe this is it as far as the Sony deal, because they're not really concerned about putting all of the attention on Spider-Man to the extent where he's the only character in the movie. So I say if you do see cameos, then that will probably tell you, okay, the deal is probably definitely done after this, and Sony and Disney can go their separate ways.
Mm,
Um,
that's
but
a that's a good
I
point.
oh yeah, but I definitely think that they're going to do that because they know. I mean, Kevin Feige, I think he does have a plan to take this guy out of to take Spider-Man out of the universe, like as a proper. And I'm not talking about killing him. You can have him go into like a multiverse or whatever. And so I think he does have that as a plan. So they will give him his swan song, the character of the swan song in terms of finishing out the story and finishing up the MCU run. But I definitely think from a business standpoint, they have to be thinking about, okay, so who can we introduce in this particular movie to carry on after this? So I do believe they're going to do that, because if you think about it, they really made a point to emphasize Tony Stark was the character that they wanted to become an inspiration to Peter Parker. And they went out of their way to make sure that this character was not only in the first Spider-Man movie, but then the relationship they had held up throughout this whole saga. So I definitely think um, they could very much use that as an option to introduce another character and then have that character continue on in other movies in their universe afterward.
Yeah, you make a great point. Like, so you basically think they could introduce a lot of characters in this film and use it as a launching pad for some of their newer characters and stuff that are going to be in the MCU in the long term. Like that's a good strategy, I think.
Yeah, like for example, let's say that Spider-Man does in the next movie, he goes into like a multiverse for like a small period of time. He's in an alternate universe and he runs into, I don't know, the character, the actor who they are going to cast as the new Wolverine. Then you say, okay, you recognize this character, and then later on when they have their X-Men movie, this character comes back. I definitely think they're going to do that. Just so that it's not just about this is the end of Spider-Man's story and his run in MCU, but we also need to get something out of this also, because we still got movies to make long after Spider-Man. We don't have the rights. We don't have the ability to use the Spider-Man character. So that's
Mm.
just my way of thinking. But again, let me just emphasize, I am no expert, so I could be 100% incorrect.
I really want to see Deadpool and Spider-Man on screen together. Like, even if it's PG, I think those two would be great together. Like, because they're in a lot of comics together. But,
Hmm.
having that on screen, those two personalities going back and forth, that would be incredible. So if they could put, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool in there, like, that would be amazing. So I hope they do that, because they need to think of a way to introduce Deadpool anyway. So to introduce him in a Spider-Man film would be a perfect way, I think.
Oh yeah,
But
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, I see we have Dana back. Dana got very excited and had to leave. But she,
I was so excited. I was literally peeing on myself. Yes.
yeah, but just so you know, Dana, we were discussing what we think is going to happen, the villains that we think might be in the next film and potential cameos. So have you got any thoughts on that? And you can, again, take over the hosting duties.
Uh-oh. 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 Whoa.
Any villains? Well, technically, Spider-Man is a villain. Technically.
Oh, yeah.
Um, that is, technically. I don't know what you said previously about the whole Deadpool thing, but Deadpool is not a villain. He's like a weird anti-hero. Um, but I would love to. I really do want to see them introduce the whole what do you call it, Doctor Doom from the Fantastic Four,
Oh yeah.
and someone from the whole. I know that they're doing the mutants, the X-Men. So someone there who's a villain as well. They can do it the whole way how they did Thanos. Remember Thanos? We never really knew anything about him. He just randomly kept appearing in random movies at the very end. They can do that for the next phase, so 4 and 5. That would be really good to see. So I don't have any problems. Maybe someone from Blade even. Just to remind us, hey, we got that Blade movie. It's actually coming.
Hmm.
Just the fact that, it is the multiverse and anyone that you want can just drop in there. That would be pretty cool. So I think those two are what I want to see the most.
Yeah, yeah, those
Yes,
are.
absolutely. Yep,
I
absolutely.
definitely want to see Doctor Doom in this phase. So I do hope they introduce him soon. Like, you know,
I hope they get a good one. That's what I really want the best. I just want someone who's actually good. The casting, they know how to handle the casting pretty well. So I'm not even afraid. I'm not worried about that. But I do think that it will be very interesting to see. And I'm slightly interested in how they're going to do the Madam Web, because that has multiverses in there as well. And I don't know. I know that they're doing a lot of the properties when it comes to all the stuff that they own now. I wonder if SpiderVerse will play into Spider-Man,
Mm.
because they can easily do like a weird hybrid. If you look at it, a live action cartoon version, even though I don't really want to see that, they could go that way. Sony's weird. They, slightly desperate. They can go that way.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm more interested to see what's going on now. And then also don't forget Carnage. Carnage can easily make an appearance now.
yep.
Oh yeah.
And
Because he was at the end of that Venom movie. So yep. That's definitely possible.
he was in it Venom. I don't know how they can do the whole villain thing, but he can maybe make a cameo appearance during the whole MCU thing. Also, J.J. Jameson, he's there. I'm very interested in how. Remember, it's like I feel like it's a different version than the Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, J.J. Jameson.
Hmm.
So it would be nice if he's kind of doing commentary on both ends. But we have to see now. I don't know. But I'm very excited for the possibilities of what can happen. It's
I
just
agree.
it's just a lot of movies that they have going on. But I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. So, and also again, if this is very successful, this can leave the door open for more than just one more Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I guess at this point, they can pretty much renegotiate whenever they want. So if they do want to do more, then maybe they will. And I'm pretty sure that this next one is gonna sell way more than the last one did. So
Oh.
when they see those numbers, they're gonna be like, all right, let's just keep doing this.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be movie after movie. Like Spider-Man can go and stand on his own, which is what we all eventually want him to do. At least me. I don't want him to sit and rely on the crutch of the MCU and rely on being the next Tony Stark. He can take the lessons that he learned from Tony Stark and, be his own man now.
Yeah.
So eventually I do want to see him veering off on his own and, the journeys of young adult Spider-Man would be rather nice. But so far, this deal seems to be very good. I'm very excited that we got it back. It gave us a little mini heart attack. It made us very sad and angry inside. So this seems good. Anything else? Any last things you guys want to say about this?
think Gary said he got something he want to say.
No, we pretty much said everything I was, thinking of. So that's it from me.
What about
Yeah.
you, Mister?
I would just say glad to hear that they worked out their differences. And hopefully there is more Spider-Man in the MCU. But even if it's not, I will look forward to the next movie, and then I will continue looking to see what Sony and Disney do with their movies afterwards.
Yes, me too. I agree with both of that. And
Just add on to that.
Yeah.
I'm also happy that they were able to work this out, and even if this comes to an end, I will continue to see what MCU are doing, and I'll continue not watching what Sony are doing.
cold-blooded. Come on, you knew you loved Venom when you watched it. You was like, yes, give me more Tom Hardy kissing himself. You know you loved it.
Nah, not really. The only good thing they have is Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse. So that's I'll be watching out for that. But everything else is meh to me. So
Morbius. Yeah,
Morbius.
gotta check out that Morbius movie.
Got Morbius. I'm more excited for Birds of Prey, but okay.
Oh yeah, Birds of Prey. Yeah.
More excited for that. Which is not anything to do with Spider-Man. But we shall see. In the great words of Mr. Bailey Jr., we shall see. So, any parting words, guys?
Yeah, I would like to thank everybody for checking out the show. Please feel free to let us know in the comments section. What do you think of this news? And stay tuned for our recap of the best TV show that has ever been created when we record Powercast tomorrow, since apparently there's some people that think that we are hating on the show. So I can't wait to talk about it. This is going to be an award-winning episode tonight. So
yes. It's going to be full of positivity.
Yes.
And ooh, yes, girl, child. You know how we get down when it comes to that power. Okay.
Yeah, man,
Anything?
they need to hire the power writers to write on the next Spider-Man film. To be honest.
Oh.
Yeah, you see Spider-Man making it out on his own, just to come back and do the same thing.
So basically, you're saying, Gary, that you want Spider-Man to, whenever he has an encounter with the enemy, he'll shoot multiple webs and miss the target every single time.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying. Yes.
Exactly.
In the future, Spider-Man, he never beats his kids.
Oh yeah.
They act amok.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh. They get kidnapped by what's his name? The big dude who was on Daredevil, who I forgot.
Kingpin.
Yes, they get kidnapped by Kingpin, and the audience want the kids to die no matter what because they're just too annoying.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, because that's what's missing in the world. But yes, thank you again for listening to us. Wait, you have anything? What, Gary? Yep. Oh, I thought you said something, Gary.
Oh, no, I wasn't saying anything.
He's like, no. I'm stunned into silence. I'm excited for that power episode. I'm reserving my energy.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about it right now.
Aren't you? You're thinking about how that gun goes, get it at that.
That's an old meme. I'm surprised you still remember that.
That is. Well, see, that was you. So how could I forget you and your rapping skills?
Mm-hmm. And right now the listeners are like, what are they talking about?
Take off your jacket. You'll be all right. Thank you once again for joining us, and we shall talk to you again next time, guys.
Peace out, people.
So.